Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about 1984, written by George Orwell. Now, before I go into the summary and analysis of this novel, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, 1984 is one of my favorite novels. I think it says a lot about our world in 2020, in the 21st century. I think we can learn a lot about us and who we are through 1984 because there's a lot of similarities between 1984, the world that's portrayed in 1984, in and America and in 2020. The most significant thing I would say is kind of the way that the people within 1984, the way that they're tracked, the way that they're being watched, the way that they're being followed, is the same way that when you use the internet, when you search things online, the way that data is being collected on you on a daily basis is very, very similar to the way in which that people are keeping track of individuals within the novel 1984. So it's one of my favorite books, and really, that's really why it's one of my favorite books. So in the novel, we meet Winston Smith. Winston Smith, it lives in this world, pretty much very strange, very different from our world. He lives in London, and we basically see how he's not happy. He's not satisfied with his life. He works in the Ministry of Truth, and in the Ministry of Truth, he basically has these books, documents, historical documents that he basically erases words and phrases and ideas and concepts that pretty much don't align with what his government thinks. And he doesn't really question this because you don't question things like that in 1984. Basically, all you do is what they tell you to do. In the novel, we meet Big Brother. Big Brother is this poster of this guy's head that is always watching you, always looking at you wherever you go. If you're in a room, that poster, those eyes on the poster, they see you from everywhere. So it kind of gives you the idea that you're always being watched, that you're always being listened to. So after the other thing after Big Brother is watching you, they also have these telescreens within 1984, and these telescreens are kind of like televisions. They're also like security cameras and also microphones. And what's funny about this is that the same way that in 2020 in the 21st century, how we love to watch TV for hours on end, and we're entertained. We're hee-heeing and ha-haing while we're watching TV. And in the same way, in 1984, what you get is you see people are being recorded. Um, People are being recorded. People are being watched. People are being observed. And whenever you do something that goes against the laws within 1984, you can be arrested by the thought police. And the thought police take people away in the dead of night, and you can't do anything about it. There's no justice system. There's no system whatsoever. So if the thought police say you're guilty, and that's it. And so everybody is just watching their toes, and trying to do the best that they can to not get in the way of the government. So Winston is living this life. He kind of breaks the law because he buys this journal, this diary, and diaries are just so bad, man. Like diaries, you can't buy those. So Winston buys this diary and he starts writing in it. How dare you? And this is such a bad thing. And we know this because in the novel, when he starts to write in this diary, it's so intense, it's so significant, and it's almost like he's shaking from the intensity, and how it's too much for Winston because you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to write. You're not supposed to express your thoughts. And so this goes on. Winston is committing this little act of rebellion. But the other thing that he does that's quite significant is that he starts to communicate with this girl by the name of Julia. When we're first introduced to Julia, she's basically the typical girl within the novel. She practices chastity. 1984, sex is a no-no. She practices chastity. She makes, all types of booklets and things to get young women not to ever think about men. And it's all about following the government and staying close to the rules. And the thing is, like, it's all a lie. Julia is none of that. She's not a party supporter. She's not supporting the government in any way. She's just putting on an act so nobody watches her closely, so nobody pays attention to her. So Winston, at first, he hates Julia. He hates her because she's beautiful, she's attractive, but he can't have her. He can't be with her. And this all changes, and because Julia passes Winston a note that says "I love you," and all the feelings come up at that point. And at first, they both were scared of each other. They both couldn't stand. Well, at least Winston thought that she couldn't stand him, and he couldn't stand her. But that wasn't the case. So they kind of started an affair. Julia kind of throws away that sash that was around her waist that kind of symbolized chastity, and all is kind of happy for a while. They start this sexual affair, and they're sneaking throughout London, sleeping together in abandoned houses or abandoned fields, and just having a great old time. And everything is good, everything is fine. But the thing is, like, Winston gets a little bit too comfortable because sneaking around is just not enough for him. Sneaking around is just not the best thing for him. So he goes to this part of London that he's not supposed to go to. He goes to this part of London where he's kind of an upper class member of society. He works in the Ministry of Truth, right? So he's not supposed to go into poor parts of London. He's not supposed to communicate with those types of people because in 1984 you're not supposed to go where you're not allowed, and the other thing is you're not supposed to have friends. You're not supposed to have people that you're close with. Basically, you're not even supposed to have family because we don't even really see Winston's family members, and it's kind of it's kind of something that kind of suggested that you don't communicate with your family members. Everybody's supposed to be by themselves. If you're not making kids in a family in a marriage for the government, you're supposed to be by yourself and just working and providing for the government the way that they tell you to. So Winston, he communicates. He goes to the poor part of town. He communicates with the store owner where he bought the journal from, and he checks things out, things that he's not supposed to, certain knickknacks and things like that that resemble things of years past or things of the past that have some significance, that have some meaning to them. And he looks at them and he's interested in them and he wants to buy a few of them. And this is against the law. You're not supposed to express yourself in any way, shape, or form because these knickknacks, these things that he's seeing in the store, they have significance and they can push someone to think about different ideas. And that's exactly what the government doesn't want. And so the store owner has this upstairs room that he rents out to Winston, and you're not supposed to do that either. But Winston, he's being very reckless, and so instead of sneaking around with Julia, which was working, he starts going up into this apartment, this room with Julia, and that's where their affair continues. And they thought that they were safe. They thought that this old store owner, that this old man, this widower that didn't have a life, was not going to tell on them, was not going to do anything bad to them. So their relationship goes on from there, and they're just different days, different weekends, different times. They sneak to this apartment, and that's where they meet. That's where they talk about themselves, hate against the government. Julia has connections in the black market, so she brings Winston some exotic foods, things like coffee and things that are under ration within London, and they have it together, and it's great because they haven't had food like that for a long time. And so in some ways they try to get to know each other, but there's not really much there. Julia was born in this world, and she doesn't know about um, our world or the world of the past, and she's just trying to rebel against the government. But Winston always wants more, and at some point in the novel, they decide to totally rebel against the government, and they decide to join the Brotherhood. Now, the Brotherhood is all fake. There's no such thing as the Brotherhood. They contact or get in touch with this man by the name of O'Brien. Now, O'Brien works with the both of them in the Ministry of Truth, and he's a higher up within the government. And O'Brien gives Winston this book. They had this little get together. They actually put on a very elaborate scheme to get Winston and Julia to believe that there is a brotherhood, that there is an underground party, an underground resistance to take over Big Brother or to take over the government of 1984. But no, there's no such thing. And they get caught. The old man, who is part of the Truth Police, conveniently places a telescreen behind a painting, and they were watching Julia and Winston, um, you know, do all the things that they were doing in the upstairs rented room, and yeah, none of that was private, and so Big Brother was watching them, and there was no escape under Big Brother's gaze, which is very significant because from the beginning of the novel, you kind of get this idea that, from the poster, being in every room and those eyes watching you everywhere, there are no places to hide. There are no places to escape from Big Brother. It's like Big Brother is the sun, and everything underneath the sun, sunlight gets to it basically. So they get arrested. They get shocked, starved, tortured. Forget about your Bill of Rights and your First Amendments, and your due process and all the wonderful things of democracy and country and rights and human rights. Just forget about that. There's no such thing as that in 1984. They just get tortured. They get taken to room 101 at a certain point in the novel, and basically, um, all of the sense of dignity, the sense of pride, the sense of purpose and belonging that humans have, they get rid of all of that. They're actually taken into the Ministry of Love. They call this the place where they get tortured within the novel. It's called the Ministry of Love, and I can guarantee you there was no love in the Ministry of Love. It was a lot of torture in the Ministry of Love, a lot of torture, and so they do eventually get out, and they do eventually see each other again in the park, but they don't they don't even want to think for a second about doing anything to rebel against their government, to rebel against Big Brother, because they know for a fact there's no beating Big Brother, and you just can't win against Big Brother. And by the end of the novel, the novel tells us that Winston loved Big Brother, and it does take a lot for them to torture him enough. And they do the same thing to Julia, to torture them enough to get them to think and to believe that you have to follow Big Brother. You have to do what Big Brother says. And that's it. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, you just have to follow it. So let's get into the analysis and the deeper meanings within 1984. Now, again, I really do believe that 1984 has a lot of connections with 2020, with our world. More and more, because every developed country, or in most places in the world today, you have the internet, and the internet is not, you're not just logging on and using it anymore. There is data being collected about you, everything that you do, every search that you do on Google or on any search engine, there's data being collected on you, and that data is very valuable. um, there are companies that collect data on you and sell it to other companies so that they can advertise to you, so that they can collect information on you. That's why personal ads are becoming more and more reality. Usually, even like back in 2010, you could be watching TV or just watching YouTube, and any ad would pop up on your screen. But now it's about the ads that pop up to you are the things that you've searched for, are the things that you've looked up. Those are the things that are being presented to you. That means there's closer surveillance on the individual. It used to be that um, they focus on the public at large, and kind of like if a company has an ad, they would just throw it to the millions of people, and whoever saw it saw it. But now it's no, it's not about that anymore. Now it's personal ads, personally made for specific people that are specifically looking for that product that that ad is advertising. And so your phone can track your location. Your phone can track what you like. In 2020, in most countries, your bank information is on your phone. You have apps that track your transactions. You can make transactions with your phone. You have digital wallets in your phone. You have digital identification in your phone. Your phone has entertainment, music, news, schoolwork. Um, Most people in universities today primarily use their phones to get information from their university or to even do homework on. You probably use your phone more than your computer. So your phone is collecting data on you. The apps that you use are collecting data on you, and that data can be sold. So the same way that in 1984, how the telescreen was watching and observing and recording you in your own house, in your own apartment, is the same way that your phone records you. Now, you can say there's several different promises and several different um, ideas and several different contracts saying that that's not being done to you, but data is still being collected. So we do live in a world where we are being watched. There's probably not a Big Brother poster in your room. Well, maybe there is. I don't know. There's probably a Big Brother poster somewhere, keeping watch on you. Whatever you're doing, that's being collected on you, and that is extremely scary because information is power, and once all of that information can be collected, there's no telling what could be done with it, because it really tracks your privacy. It really tracks what you like, what you hate, what you want, and that can be used to control you. So 1984 does show you a government, does show you a world where human thought is controlled, where if you live in a society where you don't know the truth, you don't know what to think, which is very significant because you kind of realize with the internet, no one really truly knows the truth all of the time because there's so much information on the internet, and some of it, even the lies, oftentimes seem so official, so clean and pristine that sometimes you might want to believe it, but sometimes it's mostly lies. So there's a lot to think about, a lot to do when it comes to the ideas that 1984 presents and how it relates to the world of 1984 and also how it relates to us in the 21st century. So, surveillance, control, power, thought, it says a lot about governments. It says a lot about the control that governments can have. And for me, while reading 1984, the most significant thing that occurred was how O'Brien got Winston to believe and to accept the idea that 2 plus 2 equals 5. It's not about logic. right? 1984 is not about the government showing its people right or wrong, or showing that they're good or someone else is bad. Like, the novel doesn't even tell us what war this country is fighting, even though it keeps telling its people that it's fighting a big war, right? All that 1984 is about is control, and how the government of 1984 wants to control the thoughts of individuals and how they behave and how they act, because total control, total power is the ability to control how people think. Because once you've harnessed the ability to control how people think and how people behave, there will be no revolutions. There will be no independence or freedom. There will be no pushback. You will you will have successfully control human beings completely. And that's why within the ministry of truth, you see them getting rid of words, getting rid of expressions, getting rid of ideas. So that is pretty much my summary and analysis of 1984. Please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.